A new bill in North Carolina's legislature seeking to redraw the state's judicial districts. But opponents of H.R. 717 say it's just another phase of the shameful power grab by Republican lawmakers. A federal court appeared to rebuke those same North Carolina Republicans again on Thursday for failing to fully fix election districts that were illegally drawn because they weakened the influence of black voters. Judges on the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of North Carolina last year ruled 28 of the state's 170 districts were unconstitutional, and Republicans submitted a new plan last month. The court issued an order saying 9 of those districts were likely to still be illegal or unconstitutional. Republican lawmakers said the new proposed districts could not be unconstitutional based on race because they did not consider it as a factor at all when drawing the new lines. Now, y'all know they've been lying. North Carolina Republicans, who have supermajorities in both chambers of the state legislature, have faced scrutiny over a number of efforts to make it more difficult for minorities to vote. They enacted a voter ID law that a federal appeals court struck down, saying it targeted African Americans, quote, with almost surgical precision. The Supreme Court also struck down 2 of the state's congressional districts earlier this year, saying they were impermissible racial gerrymandering. Joining us by phone from Raleigh, North Carolina is Reverend Dr. William J. Barber, President and Senior Lecturer of the Repairs of the Breach. Reverend, you and others have been fighting Republicans in North Carolina. I have said it again, I'll keep saying it. North Carolina is the Alabama of the 21st century, and what they're doing with these judicial races is truly abomination. Please explain to folks how dastardly and sadistic Republicans are going to change the state courts.
Well, Roland, you're exactly right. We've been fighting them 6 years. They spent $6 million against us, and when I was president of the NAACP, and lost. And the Roberts Court filed. Now, I want people to understand the Roberts Court unanimously said it was surgical racism. Even Clarence Thomas had to agree that it was surgical racism.
Even Clarence Thomas agreed?
Even Clarence.
Now you know that had to be egregious.
That's my point that I'm telling you. When the Roberts Court says that, it's really problematic. And the fact is, on the voter suppression, wasn't just photo ID, it was rolling back saying their registration and all those things. But listen, they got into office through a racially gerrymandered a set of rules. That's how we got the supermajority in the first place. So now we have an unconstitutionally constituted legislature continuing to write unconstitutional districts. Now they've come up with this bill called House Bill 717. It's a strategic attempt to elect more Republican judges and reduce the number of African-American judges, put more white Republicans on the bench. Now, this happened after an African-American man won the state Supreme Court seat this past election, and the state Supreme Court is now a progressive court. Now, here's the history. 1987, the General Assembly settled a lawsuit. African Americans, we filed it, saying that there were no minorities really on the courts. We didn't have an opportunity to elect judges of our choice because minority communities were always put into these large multi-judge majority white districts and could not elect. So to settle the lawsuit, in 1987, the General Assembly created 8 majority-minority districts across the state, 8, and enabled minority communities to elect judges of their choices. By 1988, since 1988, the number has now increased to 17 black judges. Now what they want to do is to go back in those, particularly those areas, those black districts, and once again resubmerge them into predominantly white districts and remove those special districts, thereby creating a way to elect more white and more Republican judges to the Supreme, not the Supreme Court, to the superior courts. It is retrogression, it is mean, it is racist, it is an unconstitutionally constituted legislature trying to grab power. They just voted to end the primaries for judges next year. Everything they are doing, they're trying to stop progress because they know once these districts get redrawn by the courts, they will lose that supermajority. Now,
Reverend, what they also are trying to do is by attacking the courts,
Exactly.
What they're trying to do is they're mad because they've been losing the legal rulings.
In the court.
And also, was there not an effort after they lost, after the Supreme Court flipped, where they actually tried to strip the Supreme Court, the highest court in North Carolina, of most of their powers and shift it to the court that's below the Supreme Court?
Right. They tried to shift it to the appellate court, and then tried to wanted to change the makeup of the appellate court. Then they wanted to change the makeup of the Supreme Court.
So the state Supreme Court has 7 people. When it flipped 4-3 progressive, what are you going to call it? They wanted to add 2 new justices that the Republican governor would quickly appoint before he left because he lost, to have a 5-4 majority.
And as a part of that protest, they arrested us when we just tried to sit in the balcony to hear what they were doing. But what cost them too, Roland, was retired Republican judges came out against what they're doing. And one judge went on and retired who was on the bench so that the new Democratic governor could appoint and stop them in their progress. So these people are not even Republicans. They're just white nationalists and white supremacists who are bent on power. In fact, now, and now it's gotten even worse than that. Tom Tillis and Burr Tom Tillis and Senator Burr are the U.S. senators from North Carolina. They have teamed up with Trump, and this is why I say, Roland, we got to watch these people who may not have the antics of Trump and the attitude of Trump, but they agree with the agenda of Trump. They are now trying to put Tom Farr on the Eastern Federal District bench in North Carolina, which would be the court that would hear a lot of the complaints over these new judge issues. But watch this. He is a white supremacist. He was trained by Jesse Helms. He's the architect of these unconstitutional attacks on voting and the districts. And they're now trying to put him, he just got passed out of the Judiciary Committee to go on the court, and Tom Tillis and Senator Burr blocked 2 black women who were pushed by Obama. One of them was a former state Supreme Court justice, and they would not allow her to even get a hearing. And now they put Tom Farr, who is a Jesse Helms protege, to be on the federal bench in the Eastern North Carolina. Lastly, Eastern North Carolina is where the black belt is. The district he would be over is the district where the most black people in this state live, and that district has never had an African-American sit on the bench in the history of the Republic.
Reverend William J.
Fighting in North Carolina.
Reverend William J. Barber, thanks for giving us the breakdown. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, my brother.
All right, let's go to our panel. Brandon. I am still waiting for black Republicans as a collective to stand up and call out the racism and the white supremacy of what your party is doing in North Carolina. How is it, and I've been calling for this now for a year, that a group of y'all, not even 5, can stand together and condemn what's happening in North Carolina?
And I don't understand that. I know you've been saying that for a while. I'm waiting for the same thing from the Democrats to come out and talk about the underfunding HBCUs in Maryland for the past 4 decades. But to your point about Republicans, you have black Republicans on your show all the time, really. You're talking about during the commercial break. You probably know more black Republicans than I do. Everyone you talk to on this show, myself included, have called out
Not everyone. Not everyone.
Okay, a lot more than 5. I know that much. So you're talking about trying to get these people on in a collective. I think it's a straw man's argument. Back to the
no, it's not. No. Hold on. No. Brandon. Here's what I don't understand. Brandon. Okay. So why don't you do this here? Why don't you do this here? Why don't you then call those? No, 1 second.
Yeah.
Call those same black Republicans who've been on this show, who done that, and say we are going to hold a joint news conference in front of the Republican National Committee to condemn what's happening in North Carolina.
Check your Twitter feed. I've already did that. I tweeted all those black Republicans.
Hold on. When was the news conference?
No. Asking for it. I mean, I can't force it. I'll be there.
I think we just
and that.
Tell me a date. I'll be there.
And Leah.
There is no organization of black Republicans.
And Leah. One second. And Leah. I'm gonna go Leah. 1 second. I'm gonna go Leah. And Leah. You wrote a book about black Republicans, and this is what I'm saying right here. You do not have the courage. You do not have the courage of black Republicans today, of a Senator Edward Brooke, of others who were willing to call out their party when they were wrong. And what I'm saying is, if you cannot condemn what they are doing in North Carolina, I don't want to hear nothing.
Right. So a lot of it, I mean, Brady actually said, he was like, we don't have organizational power. They don't have institutional power.
They don't have phone numbers. They at least call each other.
But to that credit, right? This is actually an opportunity when you are out of power, when you are being frozen out, to actually go on the record and say, I will not stand for this. I'm like, you can organize around that. So we have seen this in the past, right? We've seen black Republicans sue the RNC. We've seen black Republicans sue their Republican presidents. We've seen black Republicans do their own startups. We've seen black Republicans form their own independent organizations that actually ultimately go on to have some modicum of power. We're not seeing that in this moment, and this is a moment that demands it, particularly with somebody like Donald Trump in office, who is explicitly freezing out not just black Republicans, but freezing out civil rights organizations and black people altogether.
The answer to white supremacy isn't for black Republicans to get organized. The answer to white supremacy is to continue to liberate black people. Y'all's organizing power, the reason why you're lonely is because you have chosen a party against your best interests. So I'm absolutely not waiting on black Republicans. Wait a second. I'm absolutely not waiting on black Republicans to gather around and be like, now we want to work for black people. Black people have always, since the beginning of time, been used to help support systems of domination against other black people. Parties, no? And until you as a black Republican and other black Republicans actually acknowledge that and leave your party, then we can talk. For you to organize within party is literally pointless.
Actually, hold on, one second, hold on. Now, first of all, here's why I disagree with that. Because the fact of the matter is, you do need black Republicans with conscience in the party speaking to the issues. And hold up, Amber, and I know some of them. But just like there are some scared black Republicans, it's a lot of scared black Democrats. And so here's the deal. If you're gonna call on black Republicans to leave a party, call on some black Democrats to leave a party, my problem is, my point is here. If you are going to be in a party, have a conscience and not just be there and say nothing.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.